What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Make sure you go and download the podcast if you haven't already. Go to coinmastery.com/iTunes if you're using iTunes. coinmastery.com/Android, which will take you to Google Play Music, and you might have to still look up Coin Mastery, but if you're on Android and you have a podcasting service, it should show up. I think I'm going to try to put it on Spotify for everybody, because that's cross-platform. But if you search for Coin Mastery, it should show up in the syndication. Also, make sure you go and sign up. We have a great PDF about getting started and dollar cost averaging and things like that. coinmastery.com/invest. That'll also get you onto the email list, the newsletter, get lots of information. And welcome. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's 11:40 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, and it's good. This is a nice little calm after the storm. Maybe not calm after the storm, but this is, there's this funny period after these, I wouldn't call it crashes, but down cycles. And it's amazing how you just kind of get used to them. I don't know if that's the right word, but anybody who's been in this space for, 6 months, 18, a couple of years. I have not been, I've owned crypto for a couple of years, but I have not really gotten into it until early this year. But you just kind of get used to the down stuff, and then you get used to right? It's just funny how that works. So it's always enjoyable to go from, wow, it was way down to, so it came back to and exceeded where it was before, and we're back on an uptrend. What we're looking at right now is the Bitcoin chart. This is a 1-hour chart, and I'm not going to do any technical stuff on this. I just wanted to look at where we are, where we came from, and how this really came down. It hit that trend line, broke it a little bit, and now it's popped back up. And there's a little bit of consolidation, accumulation going on. We're at 46.50 on GDAX. It's going to be lower on different exchanges. But it looks like we're showing signs that it may be going back up. So for everybody wondering, hey, should I buy Bitcoin again? Are we going back up? The technical analysis would point to the answer being yes. Now, I don't think that there's any 100% definitive proof. I think that most people would agree, though, that the momentum and the signs are pointing that way. And there are a few indicators that are kind of ambiguous. So that's what it is. I can't give you a clear answer on this. And I'll tell you why. And this is going to potentially sound a little bizarre, but bear with me. And I probably talked to 8 people I trust. Some are technical analysis, some are macro, some are traders, right? There's a combination of everyone, because this is the first time that we've had one of these down cycles that at the bottom, it didn't have the same feeling of, okay, I'm glad that's over with. We're done, we can move up. And I know that there's nothing scientific about that other than it's just a gut feel after going through however many we've gone through this year, maybe 4 or 5, right? I didn't go through the 2013 one. I didn't care nearly as much as I care now. So I haven't seen like a real bad one other than the July one, which was off 40%, which was, that was a little sketchy. But what I have noticed, and maybe you agree with me, maybe not, is that at least this year, every time the Bitcoin market has gone down a lot, I'm going to switch over to a 4-hour chart. Every time the market has gone down in a significant way, there's been 3 phases of the fear. What happens is there's a big drop, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then it kind of trickles around, and everyone's on edge, just like, oh my God, what just happened? What does this mean? And then there's always a second event that drops fear. That's when everyone starts to freak out a little bit more, and that's when you start to see people starting to sell stuff because they're like, "Oh my God, this may be bigger than I expected." But it inevitably works itself out, and that's what just happened. And this is just my opinion, right? This is just my own experience. And this happened with the China thing, right? With NEO, had a drop, and then we saw a second drop, and then it started to come back, and that's what we're seeing right now. But every other time, at least from what I remember, and I write a lot of this down so that because your memory is only as good as, it's good to write stuff down so that you recall memories. Every other time, there's been a third wave that after the panic sellers, and everyone's like, "Oh man, is that over?" And then there's this third, it's not usually the biggest, it's usually just this extra push continued down where people that's when people kind of go into shock, and they're like, "Oh my God." And if you look back, I think it's the first video I've ever did on Coin Mastery. It was that day of July, that Sunday. Maybe it's the second video. And that was the day when everyone was like kind of freaking out, and I was thinking to myself, "Man, this is really crazy, but this is when it's really good to be buying because it feels like it's never coming back up." And every other time you've had that third wave, this recent down thing didn't have that third thing. It didn't have that third push down. Now, that doesn't mean that it's the third thing is coming. It may that's just the nature of this particular down cycle. But that is why I'm having a harder time than usual committing back and being like, "All right, that's done. Let's get going." I do think we're showing all the signs of a bull market. But, take it for what it's worth. Now, what does this mean for you? I don't think it really means anything. I do think that we're back on the right track. But what I do think one thing I'm going to do, and, take this for what it's worth. I talked to one person, and a couple of people alluded to this, but one person really crystallized this in a way that made sense. And this kind of articulated what the gut feeling I have. When you look at this curve from July, that bottom in July, up to where we are now, something about this wasn't rubbing me the right way. Something about it just didn't have the right profile. And what it turns out that was, after someone much, much, much smarter than I am pointed out very easily, which I completely missed, is this block of time, right? So for anybody listening, I am looking at early August. There was a run up right here. Was it August 4th, that went from 2850 on GDAX up to say 3084. It's just a straight vertical line. And if you take this line and you go down to like 1 hour, assuming it'll go back that far, even on the 1 hour charts, it's straight up, right? If you can take it down to the 30-minute, it'll still be straight up. And what's weird about that is that when you look at every chart, not even in crypto, just in finance in general, you almost never see a period of pure vertical growth that doesn't inevitably what's called traded out, right? Where the curve comes back down and consolidates those buy orders and creates the actual market event. This is more theoretical on the economic side, but that's what was really driving me crazy. I didn't even realize it until I talked to him. And so for you guys, if you're watching this, if you're listening, I do not think that there's anything dire about what's going on. All the signs are pointing to this going back up. But what I am doing is I set a couple buy orders down around 3,200, 3,100 for no other reason than, this thing could get filled in by a flash crash. It could get filled in 20 minutes and then bounce back up. It could get filled in 24 hours and come back up. It could take 3 years to get filled in. Who knows? But at some point, and every economic theorist would tell you that this at some point needs to get traded out. And after I talked to this guy, I spent hours researching this, and it's true. I mean, as I said, he's much better than I am at this stuff. So I don't think there's any cause for alarm, but I do think you should set, if you want, you can set some buy orders down here just in case, because at some point it just, the fundamentals always end up working out. And like I said, this could be way off, but that's what was going on. Now let's flip over to altcoins. Let's talk about what's going on in the altcoin market. And I think one thing I would really encourage everybody, I want to talk about today, is what do you do after these market crashes? Because this is when people think that you make a lot of money, when in reality you can make just as many bad decisions after a correction as during a correction. When you see things starting to go up, when you see things in the green and you start to see certain ones going up faster than others, it's just as tempting to start selling things off, or it's just as tempting to start buying into things while you're seeing these big green percentages coming up. Go on Facebook, go into Facebook groups, and I can almost guarantee you today, and last night today, and even for the next day or two, you're going to see a lot more people talking about, hey, what should I buy just to make some quick money? What can I buy I just need to make some money in like the next few days? And if they had asked that 3 days ago, everyone would have told you, that's not how markets work. You got to hold. But today everyone's like, oh, here's some easy, quick cash, boom, boom, boom. And that is dangerous to do. What I would recommend, unless you have a scalp order in place, what I would recommend everybody do on days like today, when it's coming out of a down cycle, is don't do anything. Let this stuff settle. Let these prices get their footing, and just watch it. Right? You don't have to trade every day. In fact, you don't have to. The less you trade, the better off you are. Right? And what you really want to do is do your research. Look into these coins. Which are you targeting? Which are you really excited about accumulating? Which ones will you want to be looking at next time things get really cheap? Because that's how you're going to make a lot of money. So if you bought some stuff, whatever, like last 24 hours, that's not a bad thing at all, right? But just realize you're going to make a lot of money when things go way down, and you have a plan so that you can execute that trade. You can set either your scalp order or you can just hold it. And on days like today, when it goes up green, you're either selling or you're closing your computer, right? Because it's so tempting when you feel that relief to start buying stuff up. And I can tell you, this is one of these things. This is just as dangerous as selling low is buying high, right? And of course, these may keep going, right? But we're in a bull market, guys. Like, this is not always going to be this easy. Eventually, it's going to get more competitive, and it's going to be up and down. So you got to get in the habits of buying low and selling high. You buy when things go way down because you have a plan, and you have. The reason I don't go through and pick off 19 different coins is because I only focus on like 5 at a time, tops, maybe even 3 at a time, so that when the opportunity comes in, I'm totally dialed in on those 3 or 5 or whatever. And those can be different for everybody. That's why I don't just rip through 15 different coins, because focus is really how you get the good deals. So I would recommend everybody, just if you're not selling something that you got a good deal on today, like, just close Bittrex, just close your account, do something else, just let it work itself out. Because if you start getting involved here, you're going to start buying stuff, and unless you have a very good strategy on why you're buying it, you're not getting the good prices. And remember, you make money on the buy side of any deal. That is the truth, especially when you're trading. Let's open up NEO. This is kind of the hot topic. So yesterday I talked about how This actually could be an accumulation phase, and we saw the price come back up, and then we saw it go down again, and we saw the volume start to increase again, maybe a second accumulation phase. I personally am not buying any. However, I think it actually is a pretty good deal. I'm not buying any just because this isn't one that I'm focusing on. I've just got other stuff that I'm focused on. But if I was going to buy some, I would probably set an order right around 420,000 Satoshis. From all the technical analysis people I've talked to, that's where you're going to get a really good deal based on the way that this chart is looking. It could pop off that and maybe your order doesn't fill, but remember, you gotta stay emotionless out in this process. So, NEO did come back down. I don't think it's gonna go below 400,000 unless Bitcoin does something ridiculous. But, the next few weeks will definitely paint a picture of what happens with NEO. Interestingly, NEO, as it relates to the China world, is that lo and behold, Bitcoin Cash had quite a good day this morning. This could be completely unrelated. I don't think it is, but when you look at Bitcoin Cash, it started doing well, and look at this. So it had a big spike up, down cycle, big spike, down cycle, but the volume is going down, but the price isn't, right? In fact, the price was going up for a little while. Now, overall, when that happens, it's usually a pretty good signal that somebody's buying up a lot of something. So if you're seeing this volume go way down, but the price is holding its price, it's not necessarily dipping the way that decreasing volume usually acts. Somebody's keeping that price going, or some sort of price action is keeping that price going, which is artificially changing the way this works. What does that mean for you? If you take all the politics out of Bitcoin Cash, this is actually a pretty slamming chart, right? I mean, if you didn't know anything about what was going on with China or Jihan or Bitcoin in general, and you looked at this and you knew that it was, you looked at the market cap, you looked at the liquidity, you looked at the product, this is pretty good. So I bought a bunch, I bought a good amount, right around 125. I've been buying it the whole time, but 125 is when I started to buy a bunch. And so I made a nice little profit, but I'm going to hold on to that just because, what good is a conspiracy theory if you don't actually do anything about it? So you might want to check this out, especially as it relates to NEO, because if this is true, right? If all this macro stuff is true, it's not just me trying to. I don't talk about macro stuff because it's interesting or entertaining. I talk about it because macro is how bigger markets are affected, right? If you can do technical analysis, but if you don't add macro analysis and fundamental analysis to technical analysis, none of them really work on their own. So if these theories that I have, which are based on pretty good research as far as I can tell, and talking to a lot of people, if this accumulation is true, if NEO is really being set up to shake out all these investors so that when it does go back up, certain people benefit, let's say China, and if Bitcoin Cash really is working with Jihan, or if Jihan is really working with the Chinese government, this is going to be, NEO is going to be the Ethereum. Bitcoin Cash is going to be the cash protocol or the Bitcoin, right? The currency protocol for China. And if that story holds up, these will go up big. That's why I'm buying Bitcoin Cash. I'm not buying NEO just because for whatever reasons, right? I've got enough things on my plate. So take it for what it is. This is a very risky, not very risky, but it's riskier than most because of the politics involved. But it's a risk I'm willing to take. I think that a lot of funds and a lot of macro people I talk to think that owning Bitcoin Cash is a very good play because for all the reasons we talked about. A few other things I wanted to mention today in the video. We're not going to get too crazy because honestly, I think that the best thing you can do today is not get sucked into Bittrex. Not even think about crypto. It's, let things just roll. If you look at the macro markets, remember macro isn't just about cryptocurrency. Macro is about the global financial markets. U.S. markets, if we're in the U.S., if you're in Europe or in Asia or in Australia, whatever, macro is the $55 trillion market of investable money, bonds, stocks, not really real estate in that bubble, but, derivatives, things like that. If you look on this page on the Wall Street Journal, the European Central Bank expected to signal stimulus phase out. If you don't know much about macroeconomic policy, don't worry about it. What this means is that governments they release a lot of money into the money supply, so people have more money, they can spend it. It makes the currencies quote unquote weaker. They print money, and now they're pulling the money back in to strengthen currencies, and there's a lot of different implications of this. But these trends, these global financial trends, same with things like oil prices or commodities, anytime you see big macro movements of money like this, you will start to see implications into crypto. Because as this starts to happen, and as you see shifts in the global climate of whether it be down cycles, whether it be up cycles, whether it be shifts over to commodities, over to probably not into bonds anytime soon, but as you see shifts happening, the money is always going to continue to flow to where it gets returns. And these are always signals as to trying to control certain macro trends. So like I said, if you don't know anything about macroeconomic implications, you don't necessarily need to go and learn about ISLM curves or anything like that. All you need to know is that when you open up the newspaper or when you read the news and you look at the business section or the finance section, if you don't, you should. It's important to know this stuff as an investor. And you see governments or big banks or central banks, federal, anything, starting to make policies or make decisions that will affect the global money supply and the flow of money, there are going to be implications into crypto. There is nothing yet on this. This is almost a preventative measure, but there will be implications. And I think that this is just a good example for anybody. As you start to look at the future of crypto, instead of only looking at this Bitcoin chart, you want to start to see how does this fit in to the real game, because that's the next level, right? Like to go from $160 billion market cap to a, let's say, $3 trillion market cap, which crypto could easily do. This is the game we need to be in. We need to get money from these larger macro pools. So I would encourage everybody, if you don't read the news, it's probably a good thing, but look at the business section, and you don't need to learn about all this stuff unless you're interested. But what you do need to be aware of is what's going on in the global economy. Who's doing what? Who's talking about what? What's the sentiment? Are overall returns going down? Are they going up? What countries are doing better than others? What industries, what asset classes are experiencing growth? What are not experiencing growth? Because this is going to start to paint the picture for crypto. This is like the products and the ICOs. I mean, we're in it, but the real growth is this stuff, because it's literally 1,000 times bigger than the markets we are in right now, which is mind-boggling, but it's true. So keep that in mind. One thing I always like to look at, which you guys can look at anytime, is what's called the Volatility Index, the VIX. You can go to Google Finance, and what this does is it measures volatility in the markets, like the stock market, right? For example, I did some research. There's not a lot of correlation, at least in the last few years. Let me zoom in here. Right, so if you scroll out 2 years and you can do a couple different kinds of analysis, which a couple people did. I read up on their studies. There's not a lot of correlation between VIX and Bitcoin price, or even the market cap of crypto. I think that makes sense to me, because I don't think crypto is big enough for this money to actually flow out, right? You know, there's way too much, there's a fire hose to try to put into crypto. But I do think over the next 12 to 18 months, you will start to see, as this VIX coefficient goes up, as volatility in regular markets goes up, this will be a great indicator of how much money will start to flow into crypto. I think that you're going to get the things like the ETF coming out, right? The Bitcoin ETF that makes it easier to get into crypto, and you know, there's better marketing and all that. And then on the other side, you are going to get people that are taking money out of lower return or more volatile environments and moving into crypto. Those two things need to happen for the money to flow in. I would encourage you to check this out, read about it. It's an important piece of the puzzle as we watch these Bitcoin markets grow, as we watch the global currency, or the cryptocurrency markets grow. Cool. All right, 2 more things. I want to talk about wallet routines. This sounds ridiculous, but it's very important. Here's what I do. Let me start by, here's what a lot of people, the average crypto person does. Not the average, you know what I'm saying. You deposit money into Coinbase. You buy a Bitcoin, or some Bitcoin, or Litecoin, Ethereum, whatever. You let it ride, and it just sits on Coinbase. That's actually fine. Coinbase actually has a lot of insurance, and they have pretty good protection, relatively speaking. Then you watch some coin mastery videos, or you join a Facebook group or whatever, and you realize, oh, hey, maybe I should check out this altcoin thing as well. Great. You open up a Bittrex or a Poloniex account, and then you move some funds over to Bittrex. It's on the exchange, and you're trading on it, and you're getting some new coins, and everything's great. And you're like, oh yeah, no, I should probably get a wallet because this is important, but you know, I'm trading and it's kind of a pain to do, and you know, I don't really know what to do. And the days just kind of add up, and there's no real hacks, or nothing's really too sketchy, so you just kind of forget about it. What I would recommend you do is, as soon as you get off of Coinbase, I mean, even if you're on Coinbase, I would recommend doing this, but once you're moving money onto exchanges like Bittrex or Poloniex, at least once a week, maybe even twice a week, when you own coins that you know you are not going to sell in the next 7 days, take an hour and move it all over to either your Trezor, to a desktop wallet, to a mobile wallet, like anything that can handle the coins, right? And if you don't know what wallet to use for your particular coin, you can just Google it. Most of these sites will tell you what the wallets are. If it's confusing, make sure you can just ask on Twitter or something. People will be able to help you out. But Bitcoin or a Ledger Nano S, and just move it over to your wallet. The fees that you pay to move it, there's a couple bucks, right? SegWit, hopefully the transaction fees will come down. Ethereum, it's pretty low. Litecoin is pretty low. But the more you do this, the more you make this a routine, the more that you will not, one, you won't overtrade, and two, you're just protecting yourself. You have to realize that we all love crypto. We love the upside. We love how we can be our own banks. But you got to understand there's a lot of responsibility with being your own bank. You got to take it seriously, because if you don't, you could wake up and it's not there, right? Or you know, something happens or whatever. If it's, you're not really taking care of it. And so I'm going to do some more videos on this, more in-depth, kind of step-by-step wallet maintenance and stuff. But what I would recommend, go buy a Trezor, right? I can't stress this enough. I'll put a link below, coinmastery.com/Trezor. Trezor. I think I get $10 or something if you buy it. If you don't want to, go get a Ledger Nano S, right? Just Google it, go buy that. I don't care if you don't use my link, just get one. Because this is a very, very important piece of being your own bank in crypto. It's really easy to get lax and cavalier about moving your money around, and it's really scary when you have a reality check of, oh my gosh, like this is a lot of money, right? There's what's protecting me? What if someone wanted to get my money, how could they do it? This is a great line of defense, and there's a lot of great literature on this. The Trezor people have been very, very good about their documentation, their blog, and their support and everything else. So do that. Not only buy one, but every, let's say, Monday or every Friday or Saturday or whatever, like one day a week, put it on your calendar, move your money, or move the funds that you're not going to be trading with. Just get them off, own it, put it in a safe, put it in a safe deposit box, whatever. Just do that. It's a very, very important part of this business. Last thing I would recommend, I saw this, the District 0x, right? So DNT, if many of you guys actually got in on that. Someone retweeted this. I don't know if it's these guys, but I think this guy Joe Ergo, I think he's a founder of District 0x. So it looks like they're creating a content platform. It's called the DAP Daily. This has nothing to do with District 0x. I'm not trying to promote it, even though I do own some. It's just a cool daily wrap-up, right? So if you're looking for curated newsletters, which I think many people are, go to dapdaily.com. They didn't tell me to do this. I just saw this on Twitter, checked it out. Looks really cool. I think that you guys get a lot of value out of this. So, and then you can scroll through, and they have some cool updates on projects that obviously they're interested in, that they're invested in. So District 0x and ZRX, both of those two teams and those two products have had a lot of success. And typically, success breeds success. So if you follow people that are not really that successful, they're going to share information from other people that might not be successful. If you follow people that have had success with ICOs, with products, with like these guys have, they typically have very good, BS meters, which is why I find that, I think that this is a really good curated list. So go check it out, and I hope it helps you out. We'll stop there. It's Wednesday, and so I think tomorrow or Friday, what I'm going to do is we'll do I'm going to spend a bunch of time trying to dive into one of these coins I've been buying. I haven't really mentioned it. I'm not trying to promote it, but I do believe in it, and I think that it's going to be really helpful for you guys to see kind of a soup to nuts due diligence and accumulation of how of getting into a new coin. This is not an ICO, it's an existing coin, and you can check it out yourself. Not this particular coin, but you can potentially apply this same process and strategy to your own research so that you can find coins that you really believe in, that you're trying to hold on to, that hopefully will make you crazy Lambo rich, if that's what you're going for. Cool. All right. As always, guys, thank you so much. If you haven't already, make sure you share these videos with somebody that you think would benefit from crypto. Let's get the word out, and I will catch you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.